Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Tokyo Override. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we get introduced to this Tokyo, because I think this is supposed to be a Tokyo. I think they said there was like a specific earthquake that happens. I don't know if that's like referencing like a real earthquake that happened, because I know sadly Tokyo is kind of obviously going through sadly natural disaster situations. I mean Japan in general, but there was like a specific earthquake that happened, but there's been a lot of advancements to a lot of Tokyo society, because we find out that Tokyo is actually divided up into 3 different districts. One district is where all the old citizens live. Another district is like the new district, which is where everyone lives. The new people who are coming in, whether it's whether you were born here or whether you're from somewhere else. And then finally there's, I think, mid district, which is where the two of East and West kind of come together. So no matter where you're from, both kind of worlds collide in that particular district. So I think that's interesting. But we get introduced to Kai, our main protagonist. I thought she was already a part of the group we later on know their name as Suma. I thought she was already a part of that, but it seems like not. I guess whatever Kai was up to in the beginning, not unless that was a flash forward, but I don't think it was. I think it was just, she was doing her own thing, and Suma had just happened to coincidentally be doing something at the same time. So I'm just not quite sure what she was doing. It's just a lot that was happening on screen, so I wasn't quite sure. Kind of sensory overload to some extent, so I wasn't quite sure. I knew they are sneaking into a place and they're just waiting for the opportunity, and I thought she was giving them that opportunity. Once again, not unless I'm mistaking that, and that really was a future thing that we rewound to the beginning, but I think that was just, like I said, just happened to, all our protagonists are active at once. Either way, we actually don't know how old Kai is. Well, she's like a teenager, but I don't know if she's supposed to be like a high schooler or college. I'm assuming a high schooler, but I thought that was so interesting where she's basically got like a virtual avatar to represent her in class, and you can set it to autopilot so the teacher doesn't even know you're there, not paying attention. I mean, to be fair, it's like she brought the audio from the classroom with her. But basically one of her friends wanted to meet up. Said friend is just she got some tickets or something. She won them. I don't know what the significance of those tickets were. I don't know if they're kind of like a monetary credit or something, because I think that's what she uses later on to pay for the said highway that her friend asked her to buy, which I'm like, wait, why are you doing this for her? Even though you yourself had reluctancy to do it, because apparently there's been a lot more crackdown on drugs, but her friend was like, yeah, but the narcotics unit is getting gutted, and so they're doing everything they can to try and hold on to their jobs. So she's from a rich family, but her dad, or more specifically her parents in general, keep tabs on her. So if she tries to go to the mid district, it's going to be an issue. But it's like, yeah, you're not going to have as much of an issue getting in there and out. So just get the drugs, buy them for me. Because Kai was like, well, you have a rich enough family that you would be able to do that, no problem. She's like, what kind of person like me would ask their parents to buy them drugs for them? But I'm like, that's a lot you're asking her to take a risk for. But my question is, why would Kai go through that for her? I was like, does Kai have a thing for her? They seem close enough. I mean, obviously they're in the same class, but it does feel like a thing of, well, you're on your own and you're a hacker and stuff, and she knows that, and she's taking advantage of that. But it also feels interesting that it is a rich person kind of asking you to do that for her. It's asking you to take all the risk, which does blow up in Kai's face later on, because the narcotics ended up busting her. Luckily, she was able to temporarily get away from them, because she was able to kind of hack into their tablets or whatever. Granted, they already got her information, but she obviously blinded them for a bit, but she probably also scrambled whatever information they got on her. I mean, they probably don't know where to even begin looking for her, because maybe she scrambled some of that information. They do know her name, so we'll see what comes of that. But she ended up crossing paths with the Suma, because she ended up hijacking Watari's identity, just trying to use that to get on one of the transport vehicles, which it's kind of like the taxis. It's so interesting that the vehicle situation in this continuity where it's just like, I guess maybe over short distances you're on those little pads that kind of zip you all over the place, but then there are points, I guess, like when you're going from district to district or like going very long distance, you basically have to get inside of essentially a cab or whatever. So I thought that was fascinating. But there's also like there are regular vehicles, but don't seem to be as prominent. I guess it just depends on the area. Like if you're on like a legitimate highway, you'll probably see more, but like as we see with a lot of the Suma stuff, it's like they're on a, like, I guess those are mainly transport vehicles. Those don't seem to be like, oh, we're transporting, like, I guess it's like transporting supplies and stuff to different districts and stuff. It's like, it's almost like a whole bunch of like automated versions of like 18-wheelers. It seems like that's what that's supposed to be. Not quite sure. But they don't seem to be, because they never bother showing any drivers, so they are all automated. And I guess it's like, because of an automated system like that, all you have to do is kind of like hide in one of those and mess with some stuff to make it seem like give yourself that blind spot in the wall to kind of go through without attracting any much attention. They kind of go a little Moses and they're able to split the digital wall that would immediately scan them and stuff. So just thought that was fascinating stuff. But either way, unfortunately for Kai, the person's identity she stole, Watari, is part of the Suma group, so they immediately track her down and they kind of have to drag her along with them. Because it seems like it's kind of a three-way split leadership-wise, but it does seem like Hugo calls a lot of the shots. He seems like your typical like protagonist of like, oh yeah, this ragtag group, I'm kind of like the like more optimistic, real hero type. Like, oh God, what was his name? It's been so long since I've seen Gurren Lagann. Oh God, I don't remember much about the anime because it's been so long. But Simon's brother, I don't even remember his name, but Simon's brother kind of had that same energy from what I could remember. But yeah, like I said, he's just got that ragtag leader element to him, whether it's like a Robin, because they are kind of on like their freedom fighter kick. Because they're all about kind of fighting like the freedoms of this system where it's like, okay, everything is connected, everyone's part of this system, but it's supposed to be for the betterment of people. It's supposed to be like greater than, but it's like, yeah, there's still flaws with it. Like any system, nothing's perfect and there are issues, and they kind of seem to fight some of those issues. But they ended up working with, I'm going to butcher her name, was it Iyuji? This powerful person in the government. She specifically works on like the digital side of the government. I forgot her exact titling, but essentially she has like 5 kids that are kind of illegals. They were actually brought in through the legal official channels, but the said program that brought them in was lost its funding. So now these kids are kind of in that middle space of like, you were brought here legally, but if anyone official catches you, you're going to basically get deported. Even though you went through all the proper channels to get here, it's not like you're here illegally. It's just you retroactively became an illegal because of the circumstance. So it's like, Jesus, that sucks. And these are kids who are probably on their own. Doesn't seem like they potentially have any family, or maybe we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of like maybe they're orphans or whatever. At the very least, the whole point was like for Suma and the Suma team to like put them off at some shelters long enough so that something official can be figured out. But it's like, yeah, it's just these kids are victims of falling in between the seams of despite once again being here illegally and stuff. But it seems like Kai might be in the same boat, because the whole thing about being tagless, because it's like, right, you're not here officially, so it seems like she had to deal with that for a while. And I guess maybe like she was maybe in the exact same situation, so maybe that's why like that little boy that's with them in particular, because the others are with Watari's father. So I'm wondering, like, is that why she latched onto him a little bit? Because because of said memory we saw, it's like I'm kind of in a similar boat. So it's kind of interesting, because like you would not immediately think Kai would be the kid person that she is, but like I said, it's just because of the common ground of what they've been through, and she understands and kind of feels bad for them because she got ridiculed and ostracized for that, the whole being a tagless situation. But sadly, their attempts to get back into the district that it's supposed to be going to backfired, and so it turned into a whole situation where they had to abandon a vehicle and get on some bikes to avoid the sentries that were after them. That was kind of really sweet that during everything, Kai ended up giving him a piece of candy just to calm the kid down to make him feel okay. And it's like, right. I also love the whole thing of like Hugo being like, oh, like, what was it? He was basically saying like the prize this time is freedom, and everyone's like, shut up, stop trying to say something cool. And then later on, Kai's like, all right, gun it. He's like, okay, look who's trying to say something cool now. So I mean, I didn't talk about it, but I do really love the animation style. Like, I don't know what you call this specific animation style. I don't think it's a studio. I think it's Riff Studio. I don't think I'm familiar with anything that they've done before. To be fair, I didn't look into it, but the name didn't seem familiar. But I'm not fully well versed in a lot of anime studios. But yeah, it just seemed really interesting. Like, it's a very interesting art style. Like, the thing that immediately comes to mind is, like, it's not the same, but it gives me flavors of, like, the Spider-Verse movies. It's not the same, but there's something... texture's not the right word. I'm not an art person. I can look at art and be like, ooh, it's pretty, but I don't know the technical terms, especially when it comes to animation. But there's just something like some of the design to it kind of definitely gives me Spider-Verse vibes. So it's like, it's a really interesting design for the animation. It has like this almost like, it feels weird to say, like, it almost has like this stop motionness to it in a way too, which it's weird. Like, I'm talking out of my ass, but it's just very unique art style to me. I'm sure someone's like, idiot, plenty of other art, other things have this. Like, once again, I've only slowly started watching more and more anime in the past year or two, so do forgive me. I've been out of the anime game for a hot minute, at least consistently being a part, in the anime swirl of things. But either way, I love that whole bike sequence where it's like they're dodging all those sentries and stuff like that, hopping over some of those transport vehicles, slipping and sliding. Even that moment where Hugo does a slide and it like they're sliding under something and it like grazes the top of Kai's helmet. So they managed to get away. I guess like after a certain, because they jumped down to a different point off the highway bridge and landed somewhere else, but then the sentry stopped because I guess they managed to get outside of their territory, so they kind of had to go back or something. Maybe that's what it was, because it's like, why aren't you in hot pursuit of them? I mean, I guess that's also the benefit of it being automated. Like, you don't have physical cops on the scene chasing after you because they wouldn't just stop. But it's like, because these things are automated, they do, like, I guess you were able to just kind of slip outside of their range or whatever the case may be. But it's kind of like, oh man, it all worked out. Everyone's meeting up at the Suma garage. Did notice, I was like, oh, that kid's not with Watari. That's interesting. And lo and behold, was not expecting the last thing we see in this episode is a dead kid. I was like, Jesus. I was like, wait. I was like, did the candy Kai give him end up being poisoned? That highway or something? It's supposed to be I mean, you can because we don't know what it does necessarily. So it's like, he could have easily overdosed on it or something like that. But to be fair, it's like, the narcotic cop that ran into Kai earlier found the boy's body and pulled the candy off of him. So it's like, okay, so whatever it was, he never actually took it. So there was no like chance of it, because I think what's the guy's name? Was it Spook or something like that? Spoke ends up. I think he tossed it at one point near the end while they were like getting the kids and stuff. So I was like, Jesus, that's depressing. Like, what happened there? Because at first I was like, well, we know he was with Watari, but like, I don't know if it doesn't seem like any of the other kids were with Suma, like with Watari's grandfather. Like, Suma, I know it's the group, but or at least they're at Suma's garage is the group's name, or maybe whatever the case may be. So I was like, I guess you dropped him off someplace, but then the kid ends up dead. Like, I mean, once again, they're kind of, they're tagless, so no one's going to miss him. So you're like, what the hell happened to that kid? Like, did you drop him off? Like, that's when I was kind of getting these vibes from that official, like I said, I think her name's like Iwuji or something. I was getting weird vibes from her. Like, You know, because they're like, right, she's one of the few officials that seems like she cares about human rights. And I'm like, this might be all horseshit. So I'm like curious, like, for one, how did that kid die and what ended up happening? Like, after, like, because I doubt our group had anything to do with that, but like, you dropped him off somewhere, and I'm sure a lot of that will fall on you because that cop is going to talk, because he recognizes that. He's like, oh, who's someone I ran into recently that had that Kai? So even though the candy was in the same paper as like the highway drug, that's why I was like, I don't know. A lot of questions, a lot kind of thrown at us, a lot of world building. It's going to be interesting to see where the rest of the episodes end up taking us, how the story ends up playing out, and when things kind of go from here, because I guess our heroes are going to kind of be under a microscope, like when word gets out about that kid being dead, and this kind of leading them to being targeted for all this. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.